nothing is left to chance. So that we can go back and enjoy the fun of diving in Indonesia again. Or challenge yourself to the next level. Or maybe a visit to the remnants of history.
Voice of Indonesia. VOI.
Hello, VOI listener. Welcome back to a special episode of VOI Talk from Voice of Indonesia. And as you know, VOI listener, right now, that Indonesia is highly vulnerable to hydrometeorological disasters, primarily floods, landslides, and extreme weather, which dominate national disaster statistics, making up around 99% of events in 2025. One of the key efforts to minimize the risk of hydrometeorological disasters is tree planting. And how has it been running in Indonesia? And to find out more about it in today's episode of VOI Talk, with me right now is Dr. Andre Noto Hamijoyo, the chairman of Alumni Association of School of Environmental Science of University of Indonesia. Pa Andre, how are you today?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, all of the media listeners.
Okay, Andre, without any further ado, I would like to ask you the first question. And the first question is, in what way tree planting contributes to reducing the risk of hydrometeorological disaster?
Yeah. Now we are in the rainy seasons, and there are many disasters in Indonesia, some of Indonesia area, and this should consider about the role of the tree in disaster risk reductions. You know, there are many problems in natural resources in Indonesia, and we see that the role of the trees in the disaster risk reductions because trees reduce the risk of flooding by absorbing rainwater through their roots and slowing surface runoff with their artificial plants and building the soil to prevent landslides. And this allows water to better infiltrate the soil and reduce runoff that causes flooding, and especially in highlands and in agricultural areas. And we see that many mechanisms of the tree rule, the intersections. What is the intersection? It is about the initial absorptions. The tree canopy, leaves, and branches accepts rainwater directly because it can before it reaches the ground, delaying the flow of waters. And we see the second is the infiltrations. The upgraded soil absorptions. The roots with pores in the soil, accelerating water, infiltrations into the soil as groundwaters and reducing. Also, the third is the reducing surface runoff. That is the important things. And about the soil building, strong tree roots. Soil particles, preventing erosions and landslides. And the fifth is the increased soil capacity.
Okay, so how has the tree planting been running in Indonesia? I would like to ask the evaluation of tree planting in 2025, maybe, Pa Andre.
Yeah. And there are in 2025, we see that there are many disasters because of the hydrogeology. But this and also the sustainability of the each area in Asia that has a flood, and we see that there are the problems. There are the problems about how to prepare because of because of the sustainability of some areas in Indonesia, it is become the problems. And we see that there are many forests in Indonesia and it's the problems. And the role of the trees in 2025 is important. And this also considers about the mechanisms on how to support for the challenges in implementing the tree planting programs. And now we see there should be evaluations of the forestry problems in Indonesia, and should consider about the planting trees in some areas with other problems.
Okay, now, and what strategic steps should Indonesia to prioritize and maximize the impact of tree planting for disasters risk reduction? As you can see, Indonesia has so many areas, especially in Jakarta, that is usually flooding. And what are the steps that needed to be done?
Yeah. We see that the implementation of large-scale replanting programs in Indonesia faces a variety of complex challenges, from the technical issues in the field to socio-economic constraints, and there are many challenges based on the results, such as you see that low seedling survival rate for the post-planting care. Biggest challenge is not just the planting, but ensuring that seedling growth and are cared for. Planting is often upstart. Seedling are not cared for and die before they reach maturity and break rehabilitation efforts. Then the second set of the land and the general issues. We see that the land ownership conflicts of unclear land status often hamper rehabilitation projects. We see that the most agriculture, plantations, and mining remains rampant, resulting deforestation and often on facing planting efforts. And the third is the lack of quality seedlings. Then the fourth, so fifth is the natural factors and disasters. You know, the weather uncertainty, frequent droughts, and floods.
Okay, so the next question, and to reducing disaster risk, what other approaches can be combined with tree planting and watershed management, spatial planning, or maybe something else? Pandre.
Yeah. So as a strategic steps and how to prioritize to maximize the impact of the tree planting for disasters risk reductions. And we see that to maximize the impact of the tree planting on disaster risk reductions in Indonesia, strategic steps must focus on the ecosystem-based approach, selecting appropriate plant species and sustain community involvement. Such as tree species selections based on disaster characteristics, such as the model, first the landslide, slope areas, how to prioritize planting trees with deep taproot and soil building, such as very examples as Asamala, Delma, Mahogany, and vetiver grass. Vetiver grass is important to strengthen soil structure. And the coastal areas, plant mangroves and coastal trees such as Nyamplung, Semarang, Udang, and Bakau. This can absorb up to 80% of waves energy to mitigate tsunamis and abrasions. And the water catchment areas in the upstream, how the plant are hardwood trees with high water absorption capacity to prevent flooding and reduce the risk of. It is about how to reach following the privatized strategic steps about the species selections. And there about how to implement a location-based vegetations, mitigations, rules, how the planting is not merely ceremonial. How we should consider about planting is not merely ceremonial. It is based on the disaster risk index and for the data and how to target areas prone to flooding, landslides, and erosion. And we should consider combining ecological vegetations, deep roots with economic vegetations, such as fruit trees, allows local communities to benefit both economically and provide disaster protections, encouraging participation in maintenance. Thank you.
Okay, now for the final question, I would like to ask you, Andre. How's the target of tree planting in 2026 for Indonesia, and what role can the public play in ensuring the planting of the trees is going smoothly, or not just a symbolic thing to do and not just ceremonial but truly sustainable?
Sorry, can I hear?
Okay. The final question for today is, how's the target of tree planting in Indonesia in 2026, and can what role the public do to helping and ensuring the tree planting efforts going smoothly throughout the year?
I can hear voice.
Yes, I can hear your voice. Can you hear me, Pandre?
Sorry, there is a problems.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, I can hear.
Hello, Pandre? Hello, Pandre. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, VOI listener, thank you so much for accompanying me in today's episode. And I think Pandre is having some technical difficulties. And thank you so much for accompanying me throughout this information about what the effects of planting trees in Indonesia in 2026, and how can planting trees help us in making Indonesia a more safer and more luxurious forest. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ray, and if you want to know more about interesting information like this, you can always tune in to our online streaming in voinews.id, shortwave in 3325 kilohertz and 4755 kilohertz, and our application in RRE Digital for those of you who love watching on demand. Thank you so much, Pandre, and we'll see you, VOI listener, in the next episode of VOI Talk, only on Voice of Indonesia.
Indonesia. VOI.